this is Vicky White here at Open Window, and I'm in Whitesburg, Georgia, at the beautiful Manning Resort area, and it's just a beautiful place. And I want you to continue to watch Open Window, because we're going to be bringing you some wonderful places in the state of Georgia that you can take your family and enjoy the sceneries. Stay tuned for more of Open Window right here, a passageway to your mind.
Passage to the light. Open window, a challenge for your mind. If we only try, looking at our world through another perspective, learning how our lives are connected.
It certainly is a great privilege and a pleasure for me to be here on this occasion as the 20th anniversary of the Martin Luther King National Historic Site is being commemorated. And President Carter, it doesn't seem like 20 years ago that you signed that historic legislation, does it? I think we knew, we all knew at the time that something beautiful and important was being born.
Welcome to the Inner You. I want to share with you this afternoon our philosophy in hopes that it will enlighten you and cause you begin to become more aware of just how uniquely you were created and the purpose in which you were created for. My philosophy is simple. It is designed to support you in the inner standing that you are a spiritual being having a humanistic experience, made in the image and likeness of God, therefore having the ability to apply spiritual principles through mental acceptance to create and recreate your own physical realities. This being one of the few absolute truths. Then as you look through your natural eyes and discover all the dis-ease that you have created through your mental and physical bodies, the question becomes, what can I do? Who can I ask? And where can I turn? The answer is nowhere, but inside where it all started. As you begin to clearly listen to that inner voice of wisdom, you will find yourself on the path of acceptance, forgiveness, and wellness as you begin to embrace the inner you. I hope you're able to digest that, but one of the things that I would like to share with you today is to get a better understanding of what this word holistic is all about. I'm going to share some information with you today. My name is Johnathan Butler, and I'm located in Las Vegas, Nevada. But I'm taking all of my life experiences that I've had from my initial clinic that I had in Shaker Heights, Ohio. And I want to share it with the public, with the television audience, just on some simple things that you can begin to do, starting to do at home that can assist you into moving and stepping into what I call the other side of health. One of the things that I want to share with you before we get into the meat of the subject today is what we call the American Death Ceremony. Some of you may be aware of that, but those of you may not. So I'm going to share that with you right now, and then we're going to get right into the heart of today's focus. The American Death Ceremony started as a crude ritual back in the days of witchcraft, and in recent years has been developed into a science. It usually takes from 10 to 15 years to develop. However, modern scientific advancements have shortened this period of time. It all starts with one simple aspirin for one simple headache. When one aspirin would no longer cover up the headache, you can now take 2 aspirin. Now that you take in 2 aspirin, it's time to take one of those stronger compounds. By this time, it becomes necessary to take something for the ulcers that you have developed from taking the aspirin. Now that you're taking 2 medications, you have a good start. After a few months, these medications will disrupt your liver function, and if a good infection develops, you can now take some penicillin. But of course, the penicillin would damage your red blood corpuscles, and therefore you would develop anemia. Then another medication is now taken to cover up the anemia. By this time, all the medications would put such a strain on your kidneys that they should break down. But you can expect a general flare-up of all your sulfur drugs. Now it's time to take some antibiotics. And when these antibiotics destroy your natural defense, the next step is to cover up all of these symptoms with sulfur drugs. When they finally plug you up, you can have them drained, but you can continue to go on this way for quite some time. But by now, the body will be so confused, you won't know what to do. And it's now time to make an appointment with the undertaker. This is the game played by practically all Americans, except for those few ignorant souls who follow nature.
On the same day that I signed the legislation establishing this site, I signed bills that established 2 other sites, not nearly so well known. One was in Massachusetts and the other one was in Ohio. And both of them were designed to commemorate the courage and the suffering of slaves who had escaped in the South and had found a haven in the North. That was a time in history that was evocative and promising. When the Civil War was over and the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, many people breathed a sigh of relief and gratitude, and perhaps all too often went back into a dormant state. And I say to you quite frankly that the time for racial discrimination is over. I said that because of Martin Luther King Jr. and his life's impact on me. I commissioned a special portrait of Martin Luther King Jr. to be hung in the state capitol. Now that seems to be a very innocent and natural thing to do, a Nobel Prize winner, world hero. I didn't have any white neighbors as a farm boy. All my neighbors, all my playmates were African American, my black neighbors. My mother was a registered nurse. She was gone quite often. My daddy was a very busy man. I spent my time with our neighbors. And they shaped my life. When I went to the creek to fish, it was my young playmate, A.D. Davis. When I spent the night, when my mother and father were not there, it was with Jack and Rachel Clark, who lived on the corner. They had a tiny shack, still there, but you can see. They slept in a tiny bedroom on the end of the house. I slept on a pallet on the floor next to the wall. Those were times that are now forgotten because there was no thought of civil rights. There were no Martin Luther King Jr.'s. There were no distinguished American lawyers to question the Supreme Court ruling of separate but equal. 5 people shaped my life. Only 2 of them were white. For those who look on America with the greatest admiration in its purest form, committed to freedom and democracy and equality among all people, what they see is not airplanes and missiles. They see Martin Luther King.
Thank you guys for coming back. Some of you may have been shocked by the previous information about the American Death Ceremony, but it's a reality here in America. And it's a game basically played by all Americans except for the few who decide to follow nature. But what I want to share with you today is something that I discovered probably about 8 to 9 years ago. And regardless to whatever type of dis-ease that a person has created, we have basically found 6 primary foods that if a person just stopped eating, that their body would automatically begin to heal itself. Not we, myself, or any of the staff, or any other practitioners were actually doing the healers, because we're not healers. But it's the body that will begin to heal itself once we begin to feed it what it needs. So I want to share some of that information with you today. And I suppose that you probably can guess one of the #1 foods that causes the body to open itself up for death and destruction. And you're right, that's good old salt. And I'm just going to share some of the facts on salt. We're not going to get really into the meat of it, but here we go. As follows is this. Salt is one of the #1 foods that robs, or I should say, it robs the body of calcium. What do I mean by that? Well, each time you put this processed white salt in the body, you then, at the next moment that you're going to urinate, you begin to pass out all your vital calcium and minerals from your body through the form of urination. This is one of the detriments of salt. It also waterlogs the tissues. It paralyzes up to 260 of your taste buds in the mouth. It's a poison for the heart. It increases the irritability of the nervous system, which means that it causes an inflammation around the nerve endings throughout the whole body. It's a deadly poison to all fowl, and it is one of the leading causes to high blood pressure. Salt is one of those foods, ladies and gentlemen, that if we just pull it out of the body, out of the diet, and begin to use one of the natural alternatives to salt, such as Celtic salt or the real sea salt or the Bragg's aminos. These are other substitutes that you can utilize that have the healthy sodium content that the body needs, because the body does need sodium. It needs sodium to keep those joints limber. It needs sodium to stimulate the lymphatic system. It needs sodium for the bloodstream to maintain a certain balance to itself. So don't misunderstand me when I say salt is not important. It's just the type of salt. And we want to come away from that white processed salt. The next we're going to deal with is white refined sugar. And I'm going to get really excited about this, because this is one of the #1 foods that's actually causing, it's actually leading the list in all of our neurological diseases, and that's the white refined sugar. And I'll just share these with you just like they are. It is the #1 stressor in our entire environment, white processed sugar. It increases the blood sugar levels. It causes the body to deplete itself of all the B vitamins. It leaches calcium from your hair, from your bones, from your teeth, and it's the chief reason for tooth decay. It develops high blood cholesterols, and it's one of the causes for hardening of the arteries, which is known as atherosclerosis, and it overstimulates the production of insulin and the alkaline digestive juices. Now, guess what? I want you to hold on to your seat, because I'm going to be right back. I'm going to share some more insight with you. Call your friends, call your family, let them know to tune in, because you have a lot more to learn. Thank you.
No, this is it. I like this part. We never missed the practice. Never. It was kind of hard when your dad was a band leader.
We did pretty good, though.
Especially when he walked us to school. Come on, kids. Do you remember that silly looking hat?
Yeah, we practiced every morning, even though we were never very good.
It didn't matter to him, though.